So today's video is an unusual topic, but I think it's an important one. And according to some researchers and experts, this does relate to Pizzagate. I hadn't wanted to cover new information about Pizzagate, but yesterday it was reported by the Wall Street Journal and others that federal authorities are weighing bringing child porn charges against Anthony Weiner. And I believe they will be bringing those charges. And I hope they do, because Anthony Weiner's laptop, with a reported 650,000 emails on it, that is the thread that will unravel this rat's nest. This pedophile ring that was outed by Pizzagate revelations is unfortunately very true. I haven't enjoyed some of the character attacks and harassment and threats that I've received over the last couple months, and I'm sure other people delving into this, I'm sure they don't appreciate that treatment either, but it just lends further credibility to the fact that there is something here, and it might go much deeper than we had initially expected. What am I talking about here? Well, in Hillary Clinton's WikiLeaks, there are some occult references that just don't make sense. A reference to making a sacrifice to Moloch, who is a pagan god, a pagan demonic god. In past eras, some human beings had sacrificed small children to appease this pagan entity. You can look up old historical photos, old historical paintings and sculptures, rather, of Moloch. It is a historical entity, and so those are weird references. It's weird for a federal government employee to be sending Hillary Clinton updates about a sacrifice to Moloch. That's just unusual. And then in John Podesta's emails, aside from the hundreds of references to pizza, it's very unusual that John Podesta is receiving invitations to attend a spirit cooking hosted by Marina Abramovic, who many people consider to be a Satanist, to be a Luciferian worshiper. And we're going to get into that stuff in a second. This video, feel free to mirror it anywhere you want. Feel free to re-upload it. I'm not doing these videos to make money. This is actually important research. And this is something that all Americans, and I'd argue all human beings, have a right to know about. So let's go ahead and dive in. It's important to note here that these are not my own beliefs. These are not my own spiritual beliefs. These are simply the beliefs of some of the people who are alleged to be involved in this child trafficking ring. These are their beliefs, not mine, but it's important to see how these people think so that we can track their activities and eventually bring them to justice. So there's a group of people around the world that self-identify as being Illuminati. And if you question them about this, they will say that they worship the light. Now, what light are they referring to? They are referring to the light and guidance of a fallen angel known as Satan, known as Lucifer, and that's what it is. That's the light they worship. Now, this group traces their lineage back to before biblical times. They consider themselves to be a pre-Adamite race. Again, these are not my own beliefs. These are their beliefs, and they're the ones who will have to defend this stuff, not me. So they believe that they are a pre-biblical race which came from another planet. Yes, another planet. We're not talking about Scientologists here. We're talking about the Illuminati. And they believe that their bloodline traces to another planet, that they are in fact not even human beings, that they're a rival race known as Homo capensis, with significantly higher intelligence than the human race. And they actually believe this stuff, and they believe that over time, their bloodline, through breeding with human beings, that their bloodline has been diluted. And they have no special properties, they have no special physical powers. If you look at somebody like Hillary Clinton, who is reputed to be a member of the Illuminati, she's just a sick old woman wrapped up in a pantsuit. You see her wheezing, coughing attacks. You see how disgusting her physical health is. She doesn't have access to immortality or anything special. If you were to do a DNA sample, she's just a human being. And yet, these members of the Illuminati, they do strongly believe that they come from another race that was pre-Adamite in nature. So, in other words, pre-Adam and Eve. They do not worship the Judeo-Christian or the Islamic God, and attempts to link the Illuminati and the Satanic Church, attempts to link it to Judaism and to link it to Islam, are actually just misinformation. It's misdirection to keep people off the scent of what these people actually believe. So these individuals do not worship the Judeo-Christian God. They worship Lucifer, and they consider the biblical tale of Noah's Ark. They have a very different view on that, because to them, that was their extermination. They believe that God was summoned to wipe out this rival race of wicked, that they were wiped out, this rival race which has DNA, which is non-terrestrial according to them, not according to me. And so they consider Noah's Ark and that whole story, they consider that to be an act of genocide against their species carried out by the Judeo-Christian God. So at core, members of the Illuminati hate Christians, they hate Jews, and they hate Muslims because they don't like anybody who worships God. It's one of the things they hate the most, apparently. Again, not my beliefs, their own stated beliefs. So they have a very different view on the stories in the Bible, because they believe that Satan is the one who is essentially enlightened and protected people throughout time. Not people, them, the Illuminati. And so they see God as somebody who tried to exterminate them and failed. So this is why they are anti-Judaism, anti-Christianity, and anti-Muslim. This is why they want to see innocent Muslims and Christians suffering, is they hate a belief in God. Now, let's move on from there to how this relates to Pizzagate. So some researchers had been kind of puzzled by the tone of some of the Instagram accounts that they came across. Not only were these photos and images somewhat fetishizing children, the images seemed to have a kind of cheeky tone to them, almost as if they're mocking the rest of us. Like, oh, you don't see what we're doing. Ha ha ha, so funny. We're victimizing you. We're preying on you, and you don't even realize it. That was kind of the overtone to some of this stuff. And although it's kind of a tangent, some researchers also looked into the Instagram accounts of some young Hollywood celebrities and found an unusual level of interest in pizza iconography, wearing pizza costumes, images of pizza upside down with the all-seeing eye protruding from a slice of pizza. They started seeing that again and again in some up-and-coming Hollywood celebrities' social media accounts. So what is really going on here? What is all this stuff? Well, it's clear that pizza is a kind of code language for children and for child sacrifice and child abuse, and they use this to signal to each other that they're in on the joke. And what joke is that? These people honestly believe that they are a different species, that they are enlightened, that Satan protects them and awards them riches, awards them financial and political success. They honestly believe this. They believe that human beings are an inferior species that needs to be depopulated. They believe that even things like pushing genetically modified foods and pushing a high level of corn in our diet, which is a natural pesticide, contains natural pesticide molecules, really not something that human beings should be consuming in any quantity, but instead they have us all on high fructose corn syrup. That's in our soft drinks, it's in our candy, it's in our food. So they want us consuming junk food and corn products because they want a weaker population, and they want war and strife because they do want to depopulate the planet before we expend the planet's resources. They want to turn this planet into an Illuminati paradise, apparently, where there are far less human beings alive, but the human beings that are around are financially enslaved and are basically indebted servants to the Illuminati master race. Again, not my views. These are the views of the members of the Illuminati. Now, it's my understanding that later this year, members of this cult, members of this cabal, are going to use their contacts within the mainstream media to push one of the biggest false flags of all time. They are going to push for the notion that we have attained disclosure, that we now know that aliens exist. They are going to push for something like that to drive the public crazy and to hopefully distract the public from these Pizzagate concerns. They think that the revelation that there are other species will be enough to distract the American people. I tend to disagree, but what I've heard is they're going to focus on Antarctica. There's been some weird discoveries down there, possibly some very old pieces of architecture that changes our understanding of human history. And so if you wonder why some top U.S. politicos have been going down to Antarctica recently, the official explanation is that they're checking out the ice sheet, checking out the melt down there. You can do that just by being sent a couple of photos. It's definitely not the most exciting place for somebody like Newt Gingrich or for some of these senators to be visiting a sheet of ice. One of their aides could send them a photo. There aren't exactly great steakhouses and great cigar rooms down in Antarctica, so why are these DC politicos suddenly going down there? Again, the official explanation right now is that they're checking on the ice sheet and they're checking on global warming and all of that. But again, this is stuff that can be done through their aides, through their assistants. They don't have to fly down to a sheet of ice themselves to come to the conclusion that it's melting. So why are they really going down there now? Well, again, my understanding is that later this year, they're going to push the narrative that there's been some kind of incredible discovery. It's going to be something found in Antarctica. And note here that I'm not saying the claim is necessarily bogus. I think they really might have found something interesting down there, but it's going to be a distraction from what is really going on, which is that the Illuminati, this bizarre multi-generational cult, this cartel of politicos and bankers, which has existed continuously for at least 400 years and arguably much longer than that, but we'll go into why I say that in another video. But yeah, this is what's actually going on, is that we have deluded elites who believe they are another species, and they harm and kill children. Let's get to that part. It's not purely a sexual thing. They harm and kill children because they believe that Lucifer and other demonic entities actually assist them when they make a sufficient sacrifice. So there are certain kinds of torture, certain kinds of abuse that are believed to unlock large amounts of psychic energy. And again, not my beliefs. They believe that they can absorb that psychic energy, and they also believe that child sacrifice can cause certain demonic entities to act on their behalf in the physical world. So, for example, before passing a new big law or before starting a war, practitioners of the Illuminati will make a sacrifice so that they are victorious, so that their law is passed, so that their battle is won, and so on. But this stuff is apparently real. We don't know how far down the rabbit hole goes, but I suspect there's significant collusion within the media to make this sound like a joke for the past 30 years, when it's rife in Hollywood and it's rife in DC, and it's clearly a real thing. You know, there was a story on RT the other day, Russian state television, about how this is starting to come out in Germany, that there have been all kinds of weird occult and sadistic practices conducted at some of their military locations. And again, this is something closely tied into governments, unfortunately, because it's the people at the top of some of these governments who believe in this crazy stuff and consider themselves to be Illuminati, again, a rival race that considers human beings to be inferior and to be a blight on the planet. They want to depopulate us. They want to tax us. They want us in debt as powerless servants. And thank God for WikiLeaks. Thank God for Julian Assange, that we now know some of this stuff. We now know how some of these people think. And I also understand there was a group that contains some top U.S. government officials and top government officials from other Western governments. There was a group that formed not long ago when it realized the full extent of this stuff. And basically, they are pushing for immediate public disclosure. They want the full thing. Tribunals, like they had at Nuremberg, they want these things, these people hunted down and brought to justice. Again, this is a group of people who include top U.S. government and top EU and UK officials. Once they found out that there was something here, they decided that this will go on for no longer. This will no longer be a part of Western society. We're going to shine a bright light on it.